Hello and welcome. We are so excited to welcome you to Living Cities Earth experience. Please enjoy the next few minutes, and we hope that this video and the ideas from our speakers will change your life to the better. Listen carefully. What particularly talks to you? What might have a chance to change your life and lives of people around you? Also, life of your place and our planet. We believe that you, the leaders of positive change, are those who define the future. So let's work together. And thank you for coming. All right. Well, welcome again to the final part of our Earth Day event. It has been initially thought of as a half-a-day event, actually. Then it became one-day event and two-day event, and eventually with this International Day. And it's really funny, the International Day on a global summit. So, but today, as we know, of course, we had those beautiful sessions in many different languages, and it was really to celebrate the planet Earth and the multitude of cultures and people on this planet, the diversity, which is so rich. It would be interesting. Imagine that all of the people on this planet would look the same, like Alexander, for example, or like Sergey, or only male with a beard or without, same skin color, same culture, same language. Would be a little bit different planet, right? Anyway, Alexander, I know that you have a suggestion how we could run this final part, the summary. So if you could share it with us, perhaps.
It's also wonderful, and thank you again, Sergey. I just wanted to again thank you. But you know what you were just saying there about if we all look the same, and look at the faces that we have here also, right? I mean, this is the beautiful full spectrum humaning, right? Getting all of us here. And as we said earlier, in terms of the cities, this doesn't mean that we bring only the most beautiful utopia city. It's like having the most beautiful, like Stefano and Anna were talking about, the most beautiful Botticelli painting, right? You know, of the Venus just being in perfect condition. No, it is about accepting the rose with the petals and the thorns, and knowing how to celebrate all of life in our cities. Of course, we're looking always for the greater harmonies, and this was the kind of things that Serge was just talking about. I like that in terms of cities that are, in poor design, not supporting health and not only sustainability, but the impact with the outcomes that are just not life-affirming, future-creating, or opportunity increasing. So clearly, we have to optimize those. But at the same time, I think it would be false for us to try to just think about only the good. It's like looking for only happiness, or only up, or turning only to the right, or any of these things. They don't work, right? So we have to look at the living city that has all of these greater dynamics in them. So I'm wondering, perhaps before we do I'll share with you the idea, and it's a process called Check plus Delta. And I don't know if anyone else will be joining us during this little interactive part here, but perhaps they will. And in the meantime, maybe we can have another conversation among the three of us who are active here. But we could, the process is called Check plus Delta. And let me put it here in our chat so you can see what Check plus Delta means. And here it is. Check plus Delta, oops, and I need to do it not just to Lev, but to everyone, is a process where you share something that you learned over these 3 days, something that's going to stay with you, that you feel, oh, this is something I need to bring forward, a new perspective, something that I learned about anything, something that you feel was good to take forward with you from these 3 days. The plus is something that you experienced in these 3 days that's also going to stay with you. Something, a process, an experience that you had, a feeling that was generated that you want to take with you forward. And the delta is something that you'd like to see change. It's not necessarily a criticism. You might say, I want to see more of this, or I want to see less of this, or I want to see something different in our next time, because there will be a next time, and there will be more living citying, if we were going to put that into a verb, as we go forward. So that's just a suggestion, but let's get to that perhaps toward the end, when we're really reflecting on what it is that came out of our time here, what we want to take with us, kind of the gifts that we've been taken, from learning to experiencing to our ideas for change. Good. That's just something that we can go with. But perhaps we could also start a little bit of conversation, at least among the three of us, as to how you are now. How do you feel, perhaps even different, or what is it that has given you hope, and what is it that perhaps also, before we get to the check plus delta, what is it that you might be feeling is, maybe I can put it this way. I would love if everyone involved in the whole world, okay, but wait, we'll get there eventually, but at least maybe who've been part of this event could think about a declaration. They talk in the ontology of language about 6 different types of speech acts, and one of them is the declaration that says, I commit to, or I promise that. Politicians speak in this language all the time. They speak in declarative terms, right? So to say, coming out of this, what it is that we wish to do, that we will be doing now, that might be the same, or it might be informed, hopefully somehow informed by these 3 days, that we say, I've decided that I want to be taking this kind of path now. And that might be nice to hear if we could go around among the 3 of us. So, and I should model that, right? If I'm going to suggest that, I should model it. So I could say that for me, coming out of these 3 days of Earth Week, and then the Earth 3 days from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and knowing that every day is Earth Day, bringing this into the city, into my life, and into all those who I touch, either directly or indirectly. I want to find ways to listen with my heart. I want to find ways that the institutions that I'm engaged with, the places that I walk through in the city, where I can touch and be engaged with the people around me and the organizations around me in ways that always create attractors towards harmony, always create attractors towards celebration. We talked about in these 3 days that the cities should also be places to celebrate life. To celebrate life. Of course, they have functional aspects, of course, but in terms of the culture of being, of interbeing. So I declare that I will make a conscious assessment and then effort or engagement to always connect along those aspects of the things that touch me, that I touch, that foment that life expression, that living expression, like a gardener. Imagine being a gardener in the city, but not just of the nature 1, nature 2, nature 3, right? The living nature, the constructed nature, and the cyber nature. So I've talked enough, but I will pass this on. What has come up for you that you would like to? Yeah, Lev.
Well, first of all, it was a very rich program. I have never expected us to create a program such as this. And we had very interesting sessions. One of them, I have it right on my table. Maybe you can see it, the results of it. So this is the art, Earth art. I'll talk a little bit more about this in my sort of takeaways. But we were creating today with people from all over the world pieces of art out of natural materials like dust and grass and some spices, etc., yogurt even, etc. And this was very, very interesting. So I had a sense that this event could have become like a more, let's call it, scientific sort of learning event, which would be also very interesting and very nice, but it also became very experiential and relationship focused event where we really build relationships with new people. So I have a new list of contacts with whom we decided to do some practical sort of projects together. And Sergey, for example, today was engaged in one of those sessions with people from sort of Central Asia and other regions of the world. So all of those things were unexpected for me. So the creativity and art. I also loved when Alexander, you and Raquel today, you had this session, you playing the flute and Raquel creating spontaneous drawing, right, or painting. That was also very inspiring. And one of the most amazing sort of sessions, and I will be over and I'll pass it on to Sergey after that, was a session with kids. I would never think about it. And this is the beauty of diversity, because Ranjani came and said, let's create a session where we will invite kids to write poems and make their drawings. And frankly speaking, I was a little bit afraid, where will we get so many kids, right? So I wrote her before the session, well, Ranjani will have the session today, but if sort of not too many people come up, don't be sort of, upset about it. And she said, oh, I'm never upset. I'll just do what I have to, and the universe will respond in the way it should respond, right? And it turned out to be an amazing session. Many children came with their paintings and their poems and their stories about Earth, and they were so touching, so beautiful. So all of this, in addition to all the smart stuff and wise elements, were really beautiful, parts of this experience. So that's my check-in, and I pass it on to Sergey.
Yes, thank you, Alexander and Lev, for sharing your stories. And I think I can just, confirm and continue on the way you feel, because looking at some sessions, and from one side, there is this fear of missing out, like there's 3 days nonstop, where I know that, like I wake up, I check the messages and I see a lot of comments, pictures of fantastic things that were happening during those 3 days. And from one side, I'm kind of, there's so much I missed, but from the other side, there's so much I got, like of those sessions where I was present. And every time something like this happens, I want just to highlight the idea of that Lev mentioned now, like the universe response, like there's something, the energy flows through us, and whatever happens, like whoever shows up are the right people. Whatever happens is the thing that should have happened, right? And this is a beautiful kind of rules of universe and example for me how you just state where you want to go, and then things just happen this way, and whatever happens is the right thing. So thank you guys for being a part of this and for creating this shared space. Yeah, I would be glad to share my Czech pluses and deltas with you.
Cool. We'll do that. We have Alexei also here. I don't know if he is visible and able to jump in, but anytime you like, please do. I was just also thinking that from what both of you have been saying just now about the children and the, when you walk through a city, when you go out and immerse yourself in this intense, multi-layered, multifaceted surrounding, they're the children, and there's nature, and there's so much happening that you have to, as Serge was just saying, you have to be able to flow with it. You can't just say, I'm going to determine how people are going to cross the street over here. Yeah, people cross the street, then you adapt and you flow. You can't plan ahead which route you're going to take to cross the street when many people are crossing coming against you. But we do this, we flow. And this whole 3 days, to me, was part of that. We were flowing with each other. There was art, there was international moments like we had all day throughout the time, particularly today. And I think the beauty of it was that the richness came not because we had planned out every detail. In fact, if we had done that, nothing would be emergent. It would just be the culmination of what we already knew. But instead, things emerged, like the children showing up and participating so richly with poems that were amazing. From past lives to future lives, they're projecting themselves because they were very nice. They're going to be an animal in the future. So very cool things like that, and the beautiful, beautiful art that comes out. All of that with the dancing. You know, it reminds me of this. I don't know if you guys know what this button is and where it's from.
No.
It comes from a movie. It comes from a movie that is where people had exactly that button, and it's called Tomorrowland. And it's one of the few movies that I know of that paints a positive image of the future. Most of the things coming out of Hollywood and Bollywood and anywhere are, well, Bollywood has some good songs and some good dances, but many of the things otherwise are these apocalypse frames and the end of the world and a catastrophe and collapse and all of that. So that's what we see, the zombies, the zombification of our world. Very, very hard that hits our psyche so strongly, I feel. But there are some movies that say the future could be great, but not simple. We can't get there just like this. It's going to be a challenge for us to move to that. And this was a major film. It had George Clooney was also in this, one of the protagonists in the film, but it was mainly protagonized by kids. Kids were the ones who were being the ambassador of the positive image of the future. And they could see the positive image when they touched their button, this button. Boom, they could see their positive image. So then eventually these buttons were distributed and people started to be able to live into that potential. But there were people who were trying to not make that happen, or to make it not happen is a better way of expressing it. So how can we, I think what we're doing here is creating the kind of same hopeful holding together. The movie was called Tomorrowland. One word, Tomorrowland, and it was produced by Disney, Walt Disney. I mean, it's a major, but it never made it big in the box office, even though George Clooney is there and all that. I think because it was a nice film about a good future, and people get more attracted to the zombies for some weird reason. But I've used this film in my courses that I teach as well, because it does present that positive image. And in fact, Jude Carvin was talking when she had her discussion with Marilyn about how there's the narrative, which is the larger, she talks about the narrative as being like the ocean that we're swimming in, and the stories we tell as being the waves on that ocean. I love that analogy. So the stories we tell ourselves, right? Those are the waves that impact us. They can either throw us and be the waves of the invasion of the zombies, or they can move us, surf us, bring us forward, like this kind of movie of Tomorrowland. So what are the stories we tell ourselves? What are the stories we tell each other? How do we co-author our living spaces? And I think this is exactly what we've done over the last 3 days. It's been so inspirational for me.
So can we pick it up and go through the check plus delta process?
Okay.
Yes.
Let's do that. You want to start?
I could start, but Serge, if you want to start, I can pass it on to you. Yeah.
All right. So the check, something I learned. I learned that when amazing different people come together. Magic things happen. And I kind of knew it before, but every time I see it happening, I get tears in my eyes, and I get emotional. That like this emergence that Alexander just was talking about. That there's so much that can happen from the unplanned, right? This is a great experience, and then the learning point that maybe we shouldn't plan that much, right? And maybe we should go with the flow, maybe we should allow ourselves to surf. That's a great realization. For the plus, I mean, this is also a big plus, right? Like being able to join that space, contribute with what I can, and kind of surf together with others. It's a kind of very rewarding, very beautiful feeling, and a great experience. And for the deltas, I would say that why don't you do it more often, right? Why not have, like, why Earth Day is only one day of the year? Why not leave our Earth Day each day? Why not allow ourselves to surf these waters forever, right? In each and every day. So that would be my pluses and deltas.
Alexander, are you okay with you going next and I follow?
As you wished. I thought, fine, as you wish. All right. Wow. You know, to sift through all the things I learned. But what is it, something that I'm taking with me, something that I learned that I think was very powerful? I think it has to do with understanding that happy cities, and I'm going to put it in happy, in that frame, are about our connection to life and to each other, and fundamentally to love. Now, that's not something I learned anew, but what I have been thinking in the past was that we can't move in the direction of just love and just ecstasy and moments of awe all the time. But I was thinking that, yeah, sure, there are the ups and downs. We're not going to encounter that all the time. But I learned in this that we can look with the lens that's not just a neutral lens that says, I want to see everything neutral, but always look with the ways in which we can find the inspiration and we can be the inspiration. This I learned because of all the presentations. None of them were saying, yeah, but you know what, actually, let's get real. Things aren't good. It's not going to work, whatever. We didn't have that kind of conversation. And yet, it felt very real to me. It didn't feel that anybody was saying, this is a dream, a utopia. We're talking about what we can actually do and how we can actually be. So one thing I learned is that being engaged with vision, Marilyn Hamilton always talks about that, with vision and with love and with optimism. This can be a continuous modus operandi. And that's good. I want to seek to be that way more. I've tended to be like, okay, let's just be real here. But that's not good. All right, so that's something I learned. Something I experienced was, again, and this isn't brand new, but it's not often, a sense of us, a sense of interbeing, a sense of, in the positive sense, a sense of tribe, a sense of community. When I was looking on our Zoom screen across time zones from Southern Hemisphere to Northern Hemisphere to East to West, it felt like we were in a room together or just down the street from each other. It felt like we were a community with great, beautiful diversity, but I didn't feel the distance. And so this, I think, is something else that I experienced that made me come alive. It made me feel, I want to live here. In a kind of virtual city. So remember, we talked about Nature 1, Nature 2, and Nature 3. This is Nature 3. This is that virtual city. And I think it's also someplace that we can live. Something I would change, I think something I would change perhaps is maybe starting a little earlier in inviting people, because there were so many people who had come to this, and everyone who came to this was saying, oh, wow, I like it. I love it. This is interesting. And they dipped in and out, but I've always gotten that kind of response. And a lot of people have participated, huge numbers. And I'm sure we'll find out a little later what the metrics are. But I think we could have connected with many, many more points of interested people and being that much more enriched. So that's something I would change, starting a little early in terms of connecting. And remember, I talked about connective intelligence. We can develop our connective intelligence a little better. Those are my check, plus, and delta.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexander. I'll pick it up from here. And I see that Daryl also joined, and maybe he will want to speak. Maybe Alexei want to also share some of his experiences. But let me quickly go through mine. So in terms of what I have learned, so much I have learned, it's impossible to share in, I think, in 1 hour. I could easily talk for 1 hour. I was also very lucky because I had this role of co-host on a few days, and the diversity of speakers and their rich experiences, their ideas, their frameworks was really unsurpassable. I visited many conferences and events throughout my life, but I should say that none was as rich as this one. And this is really truly amazing because, as Alexander said, the whole idea of organizing this event came only about 2 weeks before it was organized. Normally it takes 3-4 months or more. So, and this also shows to me the sort of inherent potential that we have in our small but growing young community. So we have so much richness, even looking at Sergey, for example, how many, how many different dimensions he has brought into this summit, right? Or talk about Alexander or Marilyn or other of our colleagues. So this multitude of pockets of knowledge and social connections we've been trying to share with each other over those 3 days was really incredible. So that's number one, I guess. I learned that we are an incredible group of people, really incredible and outstanding as well. And also very much nature and earth loving. So we are doing this because we believe in it. We don't have to do it, right? We are sort of, we all have our sort of other small projects, and sometimes big projects, of course. But here we unite with our, as you say, connective intelligence to build something which is beyond our individual organizational spheres of influence. I learned that world will never be the same. So we went through COVID, we went through, we are going through some, in Europe, there is this war in Ukraine, there are some other events, the global warming, etc. And listening to many people, I sort of knew it before, but now I realized it even more, that the future will never be, this, like on those Italian or Dutch paintings from 500-600 years ago, everything sort of beautiful, everything very calm. So there will be an increasing rate of complexity. And to manage and to deal with this complexity, we will have to grow our collective intelligence. So we can't just sit in the corner and hope that everything will be fine anyway. So we will need to find new ways, and this is what we've been doing. We've been building the sort of new neural networks and capacity to think about the world together and then to learn how to work together. So that's another one which was very important, I think, for me. Maybe the final learning point, because there are so many of them, but the one I want to share is, again, trusting the universe. We already spoke about how several sessions came out with children and with art. I would never expect them to be this way, so beautiful and so enriching. And because our colleagues like Ranjani and others, they have brought this trust to the larger process, and I was able to trust them, and through them to trust the universe, I also had this fantastic experience in all of those occasions. So that was the learning points. Now, one thing I would like to share what I experienced is exactly when we had this session working with earth materials, which Ranjani suggested. Because I was so busy, I never had time to go and find them. And only about 10 minutes before the session started, it was my time, about 5 o'clock in the morning today, on Sunday, I decided to run out because I live next to the forest. And this experience of running out into the wild forest at 5 o'clock in the morning, there was some light rain coming down. It was so enlivening, right? So I felt so much alive, and I felt, wow, this is so simple. Just take a couple of shoes and a jacket and go out in the rain, and you feel completely alive. So that was one of the experiences I take with me, and there are many, many more, of course. And the last point, something you would like to change. Well, we learn through action. It's action learning, right? So we understand what could be done better. And I very much appreciate, of course, the contribution from all of the members of our extended team who contributed with knowledge, who contributed with organizational sort of skills, with their time, energy, connections, etc. And so what I would like to see change is, of course, to provide more space for all of our rich resources to be organized in a more sort of natural, less stressful way. So as Alexander already shared, it's good to have those events on a regular schedule, maybe once a quarter, so we know in advance that there is another event coming in 3 months, and we can prepare it in a very sort of relaxed and at the same time focused manner. So this is what I take away, and I believe that we are just starting on our path of being recognized on a global scale. So we are building our brand recognition, brand awareness, etc. So I would love us to become what we will become, basically, a globally recognized organization, which brings both new ways of thinking, new ways of doing, and new ways of being in the world, right? And interbeing in the world. So those are my small wishes. And with gratitude and respect, I would like to ask if Alexei or Daryl would like to share something. And I pass it on to either one of them.
Yeah, I'll share what little I can. I mean, I am, I only got a chance to sit in a few hours, which is just my natural interest. I would have loved to have done more, but what I did sit in on, it was richly fulfilling. And I appreciate both Alexander, Lev, and you, and your facilitating a very rich dialogue. Whenever I listened in, I got nuggets. I was like walked into the mine and just found golden nuggets and gems hanging all over the place, and just picked them up as I walked along and listened in, and did my best to be present and able to share and be a part of. So, my hit is like this. I've been recently watching different television shows, and the one that strikes me is what I see Living Cities Earth as being. If you're familiar with this, it's a sci-fi story written by Isaac Asimov, and it's been recently translated into a television series on Apple TV called The Foundation Trilogy. And, you know, if you're familiar with the story, essentially psychohistorians and the guys that anticipated, or predicted the downfall of a major society on a galactic level, right? And he basically decided to set out and go out into the future and find a whole new home, whole new way of being, so that when the society arrived to where the crisis was full blown, he had already built a haven of a sort so that humanity can continue on. And they were thinking in terms of, you know, millenniums, you know, thousands of years. So we are not on that scale. But my thought, and the reason I bring it up as an allegory or an analogy or whatever you want to call it, is because we are experiencing, designing, being, thinking, and doing, like you say, what it means to be at, you know, in Spirodynamics terms, a second tier of wellness, so to speak, right? I don't know if it transcends turquoise and maybe on the cusp of turquoise moving to coral. I really don't know. You know, I'm firmly in the Don Beck camp that until the world actually has some hard data as to how well folks are emerging to what's next for them, we really don't know. But what I do get a strong sense of in listening to the participants and members of the community share. And oh, by the way, my friend Eric Kohner sent me a personal text, thanking me so much for introducing him to Living Cities Earth. He says it's changed his life. And Eric is a very dynamic coach, always has been. And he's just a very aware human being. And for him to say this has fundamentally changed his life in some way, I just thought, wow, that is fascinating, you know. And I know the people I've introduced are very enthusiastic and fulfilled. And so for what I can do, for what I can contribute, and for what I've partaking of, I'm very appreciative and I feel blessed. It's like, I'll say this last thing, it's like, you know, I can go in whatever environment I go in. It's kind of like, I know I have this bigger tribe. If I really want to bring to bear knowledge, skills, and abilities and insights of depth across the board, no matter what the topic is, as long as it's dealing with society, institutions, governments, corporations, all those big entities we're up to the task, I believe, of designing a healthy what's next for all of them, if they're so interested to engage. Or if they're not interested in engaging, we want to do an intervention, whatever it is. You know, there's a lot of ills in the world. We're not admiring the problem, although real world issues may come up. But I like all of what I've heard, whether it's internal conflict, external conflict, or individual development across the board. I just think it's a very rich experience, and I'm appreciative of the fact I'm a part of it. And so in one of these days, maybe I'll contribute something. The presentations I saw were all impressive. Just like, let me make a note. There were so many things I really couldn't make notes. So I'm glad it's in my WhatsApp, you know? But yeah, that's my hit. It's like having such a powerful community at my back. I can pretty much step into anything, even though I realize I suffer from overconfidence. I actually now have to really measure my confidence, because it's humbling when you see how many people are so aware of so many things and offer so much hope, you know, for what ails the world. Without being focused on the problems, we're focused on solutions, and I like that. And you know, as it comes about, you know, when we need to take action, I think we will. I am hyper interested in finding grants and things of that nature, so that, you know, we have those resources too. So I'm going to look to see what kind of grants are available, at least in the U.S. anyway, either through USAID. I think what we're doing is very much rich and empowering, and there are some requests for proposals put out by the U.S. government through the USAID. I've written a couple proposals for them, only one. but I think that's something I'm looking at to help contribute to the community. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, and I'm appreciative of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daryl. Whoa, it's very rich what you had to share. Before we check in to see if Alexei is with us as well and would like to share, I want to just comment on the Isaac Asimov Foundation trilogy, which actually is like 5-6 books. It's a trilogy that went on and on, and that kind of engagement. Wow, we are coming to a point where we can start to understand the patterns of emergence as they are emerging, and even think about then where are the sensitive points, the leverage, systemic leverage points that can help shift the dynamics of evolution in directions that are more sustainable, more thrivable. Absolutely. But at the same time, the way that trilogy went on with Asimov's writing, toward the end, without giving things away, when Trevor and Pelorat, his kind of advisor and protector, and Bliss from Gaia, when he was then finally given the choice of what kind of futures, that choice, that choosing, was not based on psychohistory. It was not based on the mega plan that Harry Seldon put out and figured out through the psychomathematics that he put together. But actually, it was on intuition, grounded fundamentally in love. How cool is that?
That's really cool. That's
ending direction. So I think, again, if we over rely on our algorithms, which really what psychohistory was doing, it had a timeline that we had to keep adjusting the course of humanity so that it stayed in viable way. That's really trying to play God with our emergence. And I think what I'm feeling and sensing here is a lot of this is the humility, the humbleness of being part of nature emerging and learning not how to control it, no, but how to flow with it and be flow, or whatever the past tense of flow is, in ways that are healthy and future creating. And that's what I'm sensing that's coming out of this as well. Very, very powerful.
Yes. Yeah, that's great.
Well, let's see. If we don't have, if Alexei wants to add something, please come up and open your screen. And if for any reason you are not in the mood, and it's quite late actually in Europe, almost past midnight for sure. So I would like to share one last thing. I remember that at some point we were exploring in one of the sessions some complex issues about the future, the existential challenges, and how our intelligence, our rational mind, even our sort of range of scientific methods, etc., just is not at par with the challenges we are facing. And maybe it was Said, maybe somebody else, or it was a collective discussion. And we came to the point that through our cognitive skills, our rational mind, we will not find the solution. It's impossible. The level of complexity we are facing is so much more than anything which is available to us in terms of tools, of analysis, of cognition, etc. But where the hope, or actually even the certainty lies, is that this thing, the love, which I somehow came to sit next to, this is a powerful force which really connects us into something larger than individual selves, right? So we create this collective circle, the collective transformational powerhouse where unimaginable things could happen and will happen. I think Jude Carvan also spoke about it, that humanity will evolve to the next level of complexity, but not due to scientific discoveries only, but really more because how we will open up our inner capacities individually and collectively. And love is the key which opens up the path towards all those discoveries and new sort of rich capacity building. So that's my takeaway, that love is the answer. It's very uplifting, very simple in a way, but very profound and deep at the same time. So thank you, everybody, all the colleagues, all the beautiful of this. event.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Be well, my friends.
Peace. Blessings.
Thank you. And as we finish it, maybe if we can play our short video, with a 2-minute video, which was with us throughout those 3 days, and it really represents the larger team. So if we can play it in the end, would be
Okay.
We are humans.
In this VUCA Bani world, what does it mean to be human? How can we human well?
How can each human feel truly alive?
How can each community and city thrive and evolve?
how can 10,000 cities on our planet interconnect for our collective benefit?
How can we live in harmony with all life on Earth?
These are the questions that brought us together at Living Cities Earth, a very young and fast-growing global collective that started 3 months ago. We are a horizontally organized action community of 25 of the world's leading integral researchers and practitioners, with a total of 300 years of research and leadership that has benefited millions of people in over 1,000 cities. Living Cities Earth interconnects both people and institutions that together reach over 100 countries on all continents. Our aim is to integrate our capacities to human well with 10,000 cities serving Gaia's well-being, and to discover how can we nurture cities as complex, adaptive, living, spiritual human habitats in the right relationship to humans, bioregions, all other cities, and the planet.
We trust that by acting together, now and in the future,
we can learn to human well and help millions of people live happier lives.
In harmony with each other.
And all life on Earth.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, and see you around this planet. Wow, you have made it. You just watched amazing insights from experts of Living Cities Earth ecosystem. We welcome you to the Living Cities Earth experience and hope that we are going for a long ride as we take care of ourselves, our communities, our cities, and our planet. Thank you and welcome.